If there's one thing that is obvious within the Wings of Fire fandom, it is that the fans hate humans. The introduction of humans is seen to generally be a wrong move by 2EG Sutherland, as it dragged her focus away from the dragons and to the humans. Fans feared that would become just another Dragon Rider book series. Eragon is arguably responsible for the revival of Dragon Rider book series, taking influence from The Hobbit and Dragon Riders of Pern, and ended up creating a genre of dragon riding books, a genre that would one day lead up to Tui being asked a question by her editor, "Have you ever thought about writing about the dragons themselves?" Even though one is a dragon book series and other is a Dragon Rider book series, the two have a lot in common, like the fact that they are expecting their first ever film adaptations. What do you mean that Eragon had one? I can't remember it. And of course, there are also the dragons. Dragons are awesome, fear-inspiring creatures. In the worlds of Wings of Fire and the Inheritance Cycle, they have a reputation among humans for being equal to a natural disaster in scale. But what happens when we take two dangerous dragons from two different worlds and force them to fight to the death? Watch on to find out. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, please think about subscribing. I regularly post both Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats content, so you'll never be bored. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Now, without further ado, let's begin. I know you all probably want me to skip to the Bloods and Guts, but in order to get there, we need to choose characters. And in order to choose characters, I had to confront a complex difference between the two types of dragons, that being how they grow. In the Inheritance Cycle, dragon eggs are a stage of life for dragons which can last for hundreds of years. But then, once they bond to a dragon rider and hatch, the dragonets are mentally mature and grow rapidly. Saphira is described as being the size of a small building at only 3 years after hatching. Meanwhile, a Wings of Fire dragon at the same age would struggle during long flights according to the Hidden Kingdom, but that's contradicted by the existence of an enemy and a lot of other things. Wings of Fire aging is messed up, and if you want to learn more about it, then you can watch this video. I decided in the end to use Saphira to represent Eragon because she's the dragon whom we know the most about. I decided to take her size from this illustration. This drawing is for Eragon, where she's about a year old or so, but I feel like it's better than blindly guessing just how big a small building is in a medieval setting. This is probably not that far off anyways. I took Eragon and stacked him 3 times and reached ahead, but Saphira is squatting in this image and her head is down, so let's just say Saphira is 4 Eragons tall, and let's just say Eragon is as tall as the average human. Now, all I need is the champion for the Wings of Fire side, so I decided to start with a character and then reverse engineer their size. I ended up with Glory. I thought I was going to have to do some complex math to figure out her size, but then I remembered that there is a scene of her saving scavengers. In the graphic novel depiction of the scene, she is roughly 3 scavengers tall, with her head slightly lowered. With her head raised, let's say that she's 3.5 scavengers tall. She's way taller than I thought she would be, but still, she's shorter than the 1-year-old Saphira. The way that the Wings of Fire and Inheritance Cycle dragons age could not be any more different. Now, let's actually get to the power scaling conversation, starting with strength. Though Glory and Saphira are around the same size, there is definitely a strength gap between the two. Glory is a type of dragon known as a rainwing. Rainwings are pretty weak as they are primarily herbivores who can do a bit of photosynthesis on the side. Meanwhile, Inheritance Cycle dragons are carnivores, making them bulkier and stronger. Saphira is described as being especially strong for a dragon, so she wins that matchup. Let's move on to speed. Saphira is described as being as fast as an arrow, which is around 150 miles per hour for a traditional style bow. Considering elven archers are even faster, let's just be generous and say 175 miles per hour. That's easy, but Wings of Fire dragons are a bit more difficult to calculate a speed for. First, we need to figure out how big Pyria is, and then we need to figure out how long it takes for dragons to get from one place to another. Okay, this section is going to be total BS because there are 2 things that don't exist in Wings of Fire: time and space. I mean, blueberries are as large as a scavenger's palm, and cows are half the size of a dragon. Also, I have to retake calculus because my college didn't accept my credit, so apparently I can't do math either. So first, I decided to do some research into other people's estimates on how big Pyria is. I got answers ranging from 5,000 miles to only 1,000 miles long. That's a big range and not entirely helpful. Anyways, I decided to make things simple and say that Pyria has the same length of USA plus Canada and a bit of Mexico. From the Sand Kingdom to the Scavenger Den, it was 10.5 rulers long. Since the ruler was 400 miles long, that makes Pyria 4,200 miles across. Next, I found that in the Hidden Kingdom, it took half a day for a group of dragons to reach the border to the Ice Kingdom from Burn's stronghold, and they still had daylight to spare. So I'm going to assume that it was around 7 hours worth of flying, using the measurements that I made. Using the ruler, that would be around 800 miles, making the dragons have a cruising speed of 114 miles per hour because that's 800 divided by 7. However, in Book 5, Sunny stalks fierce sea strongwings and prey hunters, starting at Jade Mountain and stopping when they reached the Scorpion Den. It took them 3 days to travel, and it was a distance roughly 900 miles long. However, it is noted that the group is sleeping most of the time, and they are barely flying and are just enjoying life on Pyria despite the threat of Darkstalker possibly killing them. So let's just say that they sleep and hunt for 12 hours of each day. 3 times 12 equals 36, 900 divided by 36 equals 25 miles per hour. But in Book 5, it also takes only a night for Addax to bring Sunny from the Scorpion Den to the Stronghold, a distance of 700 or so miles. We don't know what season this was happening in, so let's just say a night is 12 hours long. That's 58 miles per hour. But later in the book, Pheasant says that the Mud Army plans to get from the Mud Kingdom to the Ice Kingdom in a few days. Let's assume a few means 3 days, and 8 hours of resting means 48 flying hours total. The straightest path from the Mud Kingdom to the Ice Kingdom is 7 rulers long, or 2,800 miles. That's 58 miles per hour for a whole army of dragons, including child soldiers. So we've got 114 miles per hour, 25 miles per hour, 58 miles per hour, and 58 miles per hour. So just how fast does a Wings of Fire dragon fly? Well, I don't know at this point. Let's just say that it is 75 miles per hour, because that's a nice midway point between 50 and 100 miles per hour, and 25 miles per hour is an obvious outlier, so I can and will ignore it. But the thing is, that doesn't even matter. 175 miles per hour was Saphira's max speed. We've only been talking about gliding speed. So I did some research. Turns out gliding speed is also known as horizontal speed. I found a Wikipedia page which lists average horizontal, maximum horizontal, and maximum airspeed. All the birds have average horizontal speeds far below the dragons. So I decided to see who was closest when it comes to max horizontal, who from the birds that have both a max horizontal and max airspeed listed. The peregrine falcon and the common swift are the closest. The peregrine falcon reaches 242 miles per hour max speed, and the common swift reaches 103 max speed. That's a big difference. Let's just take the average and say 150 miles per hour diving speed for a 75 miles per hour average horizontal speed dragon. But that doesn't take tribes into consideration, you may be saying, to which I say, I am writing the script at 1 a.m. Please be kind. So the average dragon has a horizontal speed of 75 miles per hour and a max diving speed of 150. A Rainwing's average horizontal would be a bit lower, so let's say 65 miles per hour horizontal max and a max diving speed of 150. The max is higher because I imagine Rainwings would be good at diving considering they live in a rainforest with hairpin turns and stuff like that. Let me remind you that Saphira travels as fast as an arrow. That's 150 miles per hour in our reality, 175 in Saphira's because of elves. I originally wrote here before I did all my calculations that Glory does not compare to Saphira, but honestly I think that they compare, at least according to my calculations, which I am making at 1 a.m. may I remind you. This is all just random numbers that I'm pulling out from the decaying slab of meat I call brain. So Saphira is certainly faster than Glory, but not by an overwhelming number like I originally thought. Now, let's move on to powers. The dragons seen in the inheritance cycle have a notable advantage against the dragons from Wings of Fire. They are all capable of using magic and have psychic abilities. In Wings of Fire, only a few dragons are born with magic or psychic abilities, these being known as Animus dragons and Mind Raiders. Saphira has pretty advanced mental manipulation skills. This is likely because she has such a strong bond with her rider, Eragon. This might seem like an instant win against Glory, however, Glory has developed a skill that could help her stand up to Saphira's mental manipulation. From a young age, she learned to drown her emotions and thoughts in order to keep them from showing on her scales, as she is a Rainwing and Rainwing scale color is affected by their feelings. This has had the side effect of making her unreadable to mind readers like Moonwatcher. and it might also provide defense against direct mental manipulation too. I say direct because it did not provide any resistance against Darkstalker's spell. However, Darkstalker's spell was not direct. It was a broad spell issued across the entire continent of dragons. Dragons in the inheritance cycle can use magic. However, especially in Saphira's case, it has been implied to be tied to emotions and to be generally out of the dragon's control, so it would likely not be very useful in a fight, so we're not going to bring it into the conversation. Saphira can breathe fire too. Her fire is hot enough to melt rock, so it is over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, let's move on to Glory's abilities. As a Rainwing, Glory lacks any fire. However, she does have a fairly unique ability that would be hard to counter: Venom. Rainwings can spit a venom that burns through just about everything, besides for rock and metal. If that sounds more like an acid than a venom to you, that's because it is. The effects of Rainwing venom are devastating. In the case of Queen Scarlet, a dragon who Glory shot with her venom, her face melted off. When venom is shot into open wounds, or just any opening in general, the acid travels through the dragon, killing him quickly. Glory has good accuracy with her venom, as she shot Fjord's wounds, who was down in the arena, from up in the viewer's box, which is a considerable distance away. Thanks to their color-changing scales, Rainwings can also camouflage themselves. This would be useful for surprise attacks on an opponent. A Rainwing could also lose an opponent in the middle of a fight and recover before returning to fight them once more, when the opponent least expects it. However, Saphira has extra senses that allow her to detect life forms that are close by, but then again, that might be able to be mitigated by Glory's psychic defenses. Moving on from powers, we've experience/skill, specifically in facing a dragon opponent. Saphira doesn't face other dragons head-on a lot during the inheritance cycle, compared to Glory and her first arc. Saphira lost a fight to Thorn, a younger dragon than her who also didn't have any armor on, though Thorn was juiced up on dead dragon hearts, so he was the same size as her, and likely to enhance strength. She later won a fight against him though. Saphira is also less than half the age of Glory, which means that even though she ends up being trained by Glader, an older dragon, in fighting, she would have less training than Glory. Glory was trained on how to fight other dragons by Kestrel, a former Skywing general, from day one. Kestrel was a fire-breathing dragon much larger than her, so Glory learned tactics to use specifically against a fire-breathing dragon larger than her. Those tactics would do well in a fight against Saphira. She has won several fights against fire-breathing dragons who are stronger than her, like Deathbringer, who is a trained assassin, though we sort of just let her win, to be honest. She also defeated 2 adult Nightwing guards with help from a dragon at half her age. Editor Rogan here to clarify that Glory has only killed 2 dragons, both using her venom, Fjord the Icewing and Crocodile the Mudwing. She has used her venom to injure other dragons such as ex-Queen Scarlet of the Skywings and several Nightwing soldiers. She has also defeated several other dragons in battle without using her venom at all. Glory is also a good strategist. One strategy that she uses in battle is flashing her scales different colors to disorientate an opponent. Tsunami later adapts the technique to great success. Though Saphira is stronger and faster than Glory, Glory knows how to use her camouflage and venom to her advantage. She could try and outmaneuver Saphira, hiding away and stalking her until she gets the right angle for a one-shot with her venom, which might not be too long. So who wins in a fight between Saphira and Glory? I feel like the deciding point is Saphira's mind control and whether or not it works on Glory. Though I said that Glory's mental blocks could block Saphira's magic, it's a bit of a reach. Even without the mind barriers, she would have a difficult time fighting Saphira. Saphira is faster than Glory and stronger too. While on the other paw, Glory's abilities give her advantages that Saphira would not know how to deal with, as dragons in her world have to use magic to go invisible, and they also don't have any venom. Using her invisibility, Glory could simply hide away from Saphira and evade her attacks. And when it comes to venom, you only have to be lucky once in order to kill your opponents. Glory is also more used to fighting other dragons, specifically dragons that are stronger than her who fire just like Saphira. If Saphira's mental manipulations do not work on Glory, then I feel like Glory could win the fight if she utilizes a good enough strategy, 60-40. But if her mental manipulations work, Saphira wins, and it's not even close. But who do you think would win in a fight? Comment down below. Is there anything that I forgot to bring up that gives a dragon a certain advantage? I know I probably forgot a lot with Saphira, as I only did a skim through the inheritance cycle and I probably missed a lot. I tried to get someone to check over the script, but they also hadn't reread the inheritance cycle in a while, so they may have missed some stuff too. So comment down below. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I make Wings of Fire videos pretty often, and your support will mean a lot to me. And to those who have already subscribed, thank you so much for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.